Handspring's latest device, the Treo, combines your cell phone, web browsing, and traditional handheld PDA functions all into one small unit.
In 2002, a small Silicon Valley company built a phone that could do everything the iPhone would do, 5 years early. It had a touchscreen. It could send emails, browse the web, even run apps. It was called the Handspring Treo, and for a moment, it looked like the future of communication had arrived. But no one cared. The networks weren't ready. The world wasn't ready. And before anyone noticed, it was gone. This is the story of the smartphone that came before the iPhone, and how innovation died waiting for the world to catch up. Welcome to Missed Futures, the series where we explore the inventions that arrived too early, and the visionaries who paid the price for being right too soon. Because sometimes it's not about who invents the future, but who arrives when the world's finally ready to see it. And few stories prove that better than the forgotten rise and quiet fall of the first true smartphone. To understand how it all began, we need to go back to the early 2000s, a time before apps meant anything, before scrolling had taken over our lives, and when the height of mobile luxury was a polyphonic ringtone. The internet still lived on your desk, and mobile phones, they were built for one thing: talking. But in Silicon Valley, a pair of engineers were about to change that. Their names were Jeff Hawkins and Donna Dubinsky, the minds behind the wildly successful Palm Pilot, a pocket-sized digital organizer that let you carry your calendar, notes, and contacts everywhere. It wasn't flashy, but for a generation of professionals, it felt like magic. Still, Hawkins wanted more. He believed one day everyone would carry a single device that did everything: calls, email, browsing, even personal computing. Palm's executives laughed. They said no one would ever want a phone that complicated. So Hawkins and Dubinsky quit and built their own company. They called it Handspring, and from the start, it wasn't about playing it safe, it was about breaking the rules. Their first product, the Visor, was a Palm-style handheld with a secret weapon, an expansion slot that could turn it into almost anything. A GPS, a digital camera, even a phone. It was like a Lego set for the future. And in 2002, they went all in, combining all of it into one sleek, revolutionary device, the Handspring Treo. The Treo 180 didn't look like much by today's standards, a small plastic rectangle with a tiny keyboard and a monochrome touchscreen. But inside that unassuming shell was a vision that was decades ahead. You could make calls, check email, and browse the web all from your pocket. You could sync contacts and calendars to your computer, and you could even install third-party apps. In other words, it was the iPhone before the iPhone. When the New York Times reviewed it, they called it a marvel of convergence. Tech journalists predicted it would change everything. It should have been a revolution, but instead, it disappeared. The problem wasn't the technology, it was timing. Wireless data was slow and expensive. Cellular carriers didn't want people using the internet on their phones, and Wi-Fi was barely a concept outside of universities and coffee shops. To most people, the Treo seemed confusing. Why pay hundreds of dollars for something that could send email when you could just check it at home? And so, despite its brilliance, Handspring struggled to sell it. It wasn't that people didn't want it, they just didn't understand it yet. The Treo was a glimpse of the future dropped into the wrong decade. But the Treo wasn't the first time someone tried to merge phone and computer. Almost a decade earlier, in 1994, IBM had released something called the Simon Personal Communicator, the world's first touchscreen smartphone. It could send faxes and emails. It had built-in apps, calendar, calculator, sketchpad, even a notepad, and it ran entirely on a touchscreen. It was decades ahead of its time, and completely impractical. The battery lasted 1 hour, it weighed over half a kilo, and it cost more than $1,000. Only a few thousand units were ever sold. But make no mistake, the idea had been
The
planted.
Simon PC is available now for under $900. It wasn't only hardware companies that...
By 2003, Handspring was running out of time and money. The tech bubble had burst. Investors wanted profits, not dreams, and carriers still refused to support data-heavy phones. Handspring eventually merged back into Palm, the very company Hawkins and Dubinsky had left behind. Together, they tried to relaunch the Treo under Palm's name, but the moment had already passed. They had built the future, but the future had moved on. By the time the iPhone appeared in 2007, the world was finally ready. Wi-Fi was everywhere. Touchscreens were normal, and people understood that a phone could be more than a phone. The Treo walked so the iPhone could run. When Steve Jobs walked onto that stage in January 2007 and said, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone," he wasn't lying, but he wasn't first. The iPhone was the perfect storm: the right design, the right technology, and most importantly, the right timing. It wasn't just a device, it was a culture shift. Where Handspring struggled to explain what a smartphone even was, Apple didn't have to. By 2007, the world already wanted one. And so, like many visionaries before them, Handspring vanished quietly into tech history. The legacy they left behind. But their DNA lives on. Multitasking? That started on Palm. Mobile apps? Handspring had them years before the App Store. Even Apple's obsession with a computer in your pocket echoed Jeff Hawkins' original dream, word for word. In many ways, the iPhone wasn't a revolution, it was a resurrection. A second chance for an idea that was too early the first time. So what if the Treo had launched in 2007 instead of 2002? What if Handspring had survived until the networks caught up? Would Apple still have changed the world? Or would we all be holding Handspring phones today, running an app store built 5 years early? What if timing alone decides who gets to make history? Because the difference between a failure and a revolution isn't brilliance, it's patience. The story of the Treo is the story of technology itself. The world doesn't reward who's first, it rewards who's ready. Handspring proved that visionaries can build the future long before the world understands it. But when progress comes too soon, it feels like madness. And so the Treo joined the long list of brilliant ghosts, machines that predicted tomorrow and paid the price for it. For a brief moment in the early 2000s, the future was sitting in the palm of our hands, literally. A phone that could think, connect, and create. A vision of what life would soon become. But the world looked away, and in that silence, innovation waited. 5 years later, Apple showed the same idea, and this time, everyone listened. The smartphone that changed the world wasn't the first. It was just the one that arrived when the world was finally ready. Thanks for watching Missed Futures, the series that uncovers the forgotten innovations that came too soon and the people who dared to imagine tomorrow. If you believe timing is everything, subscribe and join us next time as we explore the Internet before the Internet, France's digital revolution that never left home.